with you because she has another gift for him. And I just said this over to everybody, so it won't be a surprise. Okay. Before we begin, if I could just ask everyone to mute your cell phones to minimize the potential distractions that we have this morning, that would be great. We've been having some frequency issues. Has the live stream started yet? We're getting some texts. It started now? Okay. Well, good morning, everyone. Good morning. Oh, it's so good to see you. Welcome to Common Thread. If you are here, if you are a newcomer or old timer, if you've someone who's been here a year or someone who used to come years ago, if you found us online or stumbled in off the street, whoever you are, and no matter what brought you here today, you belong. And we are so happy to have you with us this morning. And if this is your first time checking us out, my name is Sue Kemple, and I am the very new pastor here. And today is going to be a little different than the usual because it's a special day. We are honoring our founding minister, Doug Hammack. And so while it might not be indicative of a typical Sunday morning here, you're going to hear quite a bit about the impact this community, led by this founder, has had in the lives of quite a few folks. So in that respect, you couldn't have come for the first time at a better time. And if you want to know more about us, just click this QR code and we'll send you a zero-pressure email with more information, including the option to connect with a live human being if you want, which, if you really want to know what we are about, is the best way to go, to get a first-hand account of what this place is like, where we shine, where we fall short, but mostly how transformation is the aim, wherever each of us is on the spiritual journey, knowing that making that journey together takes us farther than we could ever go on our own. So, welcome. And an even more heartfelt welcome if you're here and having a hard time today. In our culture, it's our inclination to isolate when the going gets tough, but we know that standing with each other on our rough days is an act of solidarity, an act of love, and part of what makes our personal and collective transformation possible. So each Sunday down the hall, we have a trained listener who is there to hold space for us in the library when we're having a challenging time. So if you need an ear to listen today, a shoulder to cry on, or just a different perspective through which to look at your struggles, Diane will hang out in the library for a few minutes to see if anyone just needs that kind of support this morning. And at any time, you can always go to this URL to request support through our community care team. Morgan leads that effort, and if you let her know what's up, she'll get you pointed in the right direction. As I said earlier, it's a big day, so before we get started on the ritual, I'm going to jump into the announcements. After the service today, if you're online live, we'll have What Are You Thinking on Zoom. If you're here on campus, we're going to have our Founders Celebration Brunch down the hall in the Fellowship Hall. We also have our meditation support group today, and if you're interested in that, when you're ready to find some peace and quiet in the midst of the brunch, just head downstairs to our contemplative room at any time during that brunch, and we'll announce when the session is about to begin. Also this afternoon, Brew Crew is at Heyday Brewing. Don't forget, we have our election night chant and meditation service on Tuesday. We'll have listeners here in the room to hold space on Wednesday evening after the election to help you work through any potential afflictive emotions around the election or anything else in your life. And next Saturday, we plan to have a Braver Angels workshop here in the chapel. Obviously, the election is much on our minds, and we want to help folks navigate this season. One way to do that is to try to be here on Tuesday evening and to get the word out to your friends and neighbors that we're going to hold space on this night of consequential significance in our nation and for our world. We are not coming together for any kind of political reason. Of course, that's not what we do here. But we are coming together to hold space, to tap into the divine power of chant and contemplative practices, to connect with each other, and to send our love out into the world. This chapel is going to be gorgeously appointed, and you can come at any time that works for you. Just know that we will begin at 6:30 with a half hour of quiet meditation, and then we will move into our service of chant, interspersed with contemplation from 7 till 8 p.m. And if you attended the Well of Mercy retreat last year, you've had this experience of how powerful chant in this context can be. So if you can, give yourself that gift, remembering it's not just for yourself, but also for your loved ones and for our world. Thanksgiving, as you know, is coming up soon, and we are really thrilled to be working with the Welcome House organization to provide support to immigrants who are starting new lives in our culture. This event was a smashing success last year, and it doesn't take much to participate. Come for the whole afternoon or for just a bit, whatever works for you. Bring a side or dessert if you can or not. This isn't just about feeding these folks. It's about feeding us all as a collective community. the nourishment that comes from welcome and being together. It's a reciprocal feeding. Preston has been working hard to bring our involvement in this effort together, so please put it on your calendar and we'll have more details soon. And a month from now, December 1st, we will have our annual winter workshop with the kids. It's such a fun time for them, a chance to do a little bit of holiday shopping, and of course, we need things for the kids to buy. So if you'd like to support this event, you can either donate items you already have or go to this QR code and purchase something from the wish list so that the kids have a great time that Sunday, immersed in an experience of generosity and love. And this is just the tip of the iceberg in terms of what we have going on around here. And as always, we went quickly through these announcements, maybe a little more quickly this morning than usual because of all that we have going on today. So if you need to know any more about what's happening or want to know what else is happening, you know you can always find out in one of three places: on the app, on our website, or in the weekly email. Now, we aren't going to do a dedicated meditation practice this morning, but I am going to invite you into a place of groundedness before we continue. So perhaps you might take a moment to relax. Take a deep breath. See if you can find a place of calm in your mind, in your body, in your heart. Continue your intentional breathing. Inhale deeply. Exhale fully. See if with each breath you can slow your breathing down just a little. Deep inhale and a full exhale. Release any tension in your jaw, in your shoulders, in your arms, in your torso, in your legs. Bring awareness to your feet. Feel them grounding you. And as you check in with yourself, I wonder if you can access within you a place of gratitude. Because that's what we're about today. Gratitude. In fact, today is as big a day as they come at Common Thread. We're going to honor our founding minister, Doug Hammack, the very guy who started this whole thing in the first place, as he steps down from his leadership role and into a new phase in his life and ministry. And Doug, you're going to hear many words of thanks today, so I wanted to be the first to kick them off. I recall hearing you say during a service over the summer that my taking on the executive pastor role had fundamentally changed your life. And I'm glad for that. But really, I think it's quite the understatement for me to say that you have fundamentally changed mine. And I am not sure that I can find the words to express my gratitude for your support, for your trust, and for your affection. But that gratitude is eternal, and it's just the beginning of what you're going to hear today, and probably beyond today. So thank you, Doug, for your ministry, for your friendship, and for building up this authentic spiritual community of love. And with that, let's begin this ritual of thanksgiving for the life and ministry of Doug Hammack.
As we light this candle to remind us, every time we glimpse it out of the corner of our eyes, that everything is alive with spirit, and that the divine is everywhere, in everything, in everyone. All right, we're going to ring this bowl to mark this time separate. To tell ourselves in these moments, we pay special attention. We listen behind the words. We listen for the whispers of wisdom, the quiet inner voice, the voice that runs through everything and everyone, all of us, all of which is sacred.
Everything is sacred.
Everything is sacred.
Everything is filled with the divine. Everything is alive with spirit, with spirit. Everything is a wonder.
Everything is a wonder,
Unfolding right before our eyes. Everything is alive with spirit, with spirit. Everything is a blessing,
everything is a blessing,
bursting from the earth and sky. Everything is alive with spirit, with spirit. Everyone is sacred.
everyone is sacred.
Everyone is filled with the divine. Everyone is alive with spirit, with spirit. Everything is sacred.
Everything is sacred.
Everything is filled with the divine. Everything is alive with spirit, with spirit. Everything is a wonder,
Everything is a wonder,
unfolding right before our eyes. Everything is alive with spirit, with spirit. Everything is a blessing,
everything is a blessing,
bursting from the earth and sky. Everything is alive with spirit, with spirit. Everyone is sacred.
Everyone is sacred.
Everyone is filled with the divine. Everyone is alive with spirit, with spirit. Everyone is sacred.
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 Everyone is sacred. Everyone is sacred.
There's a time for everything, a season for everything that happens under the sun. A time to be born, a time to die, a time to plant, a time to harvest, a time to laugh, a time to weep, a time to mourn, a time to dance. Grandpa, I am grateful for the time we share together.
Okay, young people, you are free to go downstairs with Miss Shelby right now. If I can get our gratitude speakers here on deck. And where is John, who's going to help me with the video? I don't know where he went. Okay. I got you. Maybe he's someplace else. You got me? You'll hit it. Okay. So, we have a few folks today who have a few words they'd like to share with Doug. And we're going to start with Scott, who's in Florida today, couldn't be here, and then after that, we'll have our folks get up.
Good morning from the Sunshine State. I'm Scott Shackleton, and I'm glad to be able to record this video to share with you today. On December 12th, 2012, I first met with Doug, and I tried to trick him into giving me the wrong answer on whether LGBTQ people would be fully affirmed at his church. He didn't take the bait, so then I confessed that I was baiting him. But I still didn't trust him. So I said, well, give me some examples of ways that I might serve in your church. He then suggested, after asking what my skills were, several different areas that were all leadership type positions. And I thought, bingo, this is a place where I can be welcomed. Here's a church that welcomes not just my attendance, my service, and my giving, but all of me. And that meant that I could fully grow in that affirmation, because that's what it takes to be able to grow. But there's another thing that I think is key to Doug's leadership enabling growth. I recall on a recent hike in Zion National Park, my partner JT said, okay, you go first. I'll be right behind you. Most of us would agree that being transparent and authentic are good qualities to have, but it's incredibly contrary to our egos to put our mess out there for others to see. It's even more scary than hiking on Angel's Landing. But it's in that affirmation of our humanity that we can awaken to the reality of oneness, and it cuts off othering or scapegoating at the knees. So, okay, you go first. Doug's done that with great intention. It seems so normal now, but as I was just getting to know Doug in 2013, it seemed pretty radical for the preacher man to be sharing his messiness with the new guy. He didn't know me well at all, and yet he had both the sense of security and the self-awareness to be open about things that were hard for him. That gave me the freedom to do the same. I could share lots of other stories of the past 12 years and how Doug's going first approach to leadership has brought us as a community and me as an individual, partner, parent to adult children, grandfather, and friend into a place of fertile growth. But I'll close just with saying thank you, Doug, and thank you, Denise, for your service, your leadership, and most of all, your friendship. You've made my life so much better, and I'm gratefully looking forward to your new role in the community.
Doug, I want to thank you for the ways that you have influenced my life and contributed to my well-being. When I first met you, I was buried under the avalanche of my life and desperate for a way forward. I watched you leave behind the financial support and security of a large church denomination to pursue authentic spiritual life, and it inspired me to find the strength and courage to make the changes I needed to make in order to find joy. Making these changes was hard and brutal and challenged everything I believed I was expected to be and everything I had been taught would make me a good person. When I was navigating a divorce, you were there with coffee and practical advice, like, it's time to protect you, get a lawyer. And although I deeply regretted my decision to ignore that advice, meeting with you and listening to your wisdom made me feel supported. You put a monthly reminder on your phone named Check on Christy, and that made me feel cared for and supported and important. When I had a panic attack in the parking lot at Food Lion, you talked me through it and asked me questions like, why does everyone else in the world deserve love except you? And then I realized how silly that was and started the path to loving myself. You took the self-awareness project you created and you handed it to me and said, I trust you to lead this. Feel the power, sister. And that made me feel empowered. And when I asked how you were, you told me the truth and you shared your vulnerability, the gratitude, but also the worry and the mad. And that made me feel not alone and safe to acknowledge and share my unpretty parts. And so I thank you for all the love and effort you've poured into this community and into me. As you transition into this new season of life, I'm here for you as you have always been for me.
All right. Hey, everybody, I'm Matt. I didn't write anything down. I'm just winging it. So, I know, 2 minutes. So, Sue sent me an email the other day and said, hey, do you want to talk Doug's celebration? And I said, yeah. So I'm thinking I'm going to say something profound and deep. Profound and deep. And then she said, you got 2 minutes. And I said, well, shit, that's not going to be profound and deep in that amount of time. So I like telling stories. I know. So one of the things I said to myself was, I'm not going to tell a story and I'm not going to ramble. I think I've failed at both of those at this point. But so we've been coming here for over a decade now, which is really hard to believe, about 12 years. And I've seen you through good times and bad. You have seen me through good times and bad. There's been ups and downs. And so I guess I just want to say thank you for being a friend. It's difficult to find that today. And I guess I just feel grateful, not for Doug, the preacher man, although I am thankful for that, but I am just thankful for Doug. And so I'm very proud to call you my friend.
All right, good morning, everybody. I'm Jim Luke. So Teresa and I moved here in almost to this day in 1997, right? We showed up around Halloween, somewhere thereabouts. So there's only one or two people here that have been here longer than we have. So we've seen it all. Doug's walked us through ups and downs, personally, financially, professionally. And I just want to thank you, Doug, and Denise for being there for us, guiding us, giving us advice, some of it good, some of it we should have left to the side. But hey, just shows us you're human just like us, right? So, hey, they say opinions, I won't go. Anyway, so Doug has really helped me grow as a person, a husband, a father, a friend. And I jokingly tell people, well, half jokingly, if it wasn't for Doug in this community, I would be divorced again, broke, drunk, and homeless. I mean, really, that was the trajectory of my life before moving here. I mean, thankfully, I met Teresa before we moved here, but that was the trajectory. And Doug just saw me with all my lumps, bumps, and problems, and supported me, gave me opportunities to grow, opportunities to learn, and took me out to the woodshed once or twice. So, thanks, Doug. I needed that.
Look at me. Shout out to my online peeps. I'm in person. I'm real, yeah. So I met Doug about 13, 14 years ago, and like many of you, at some point, I sat in a coffee shop with him and complained about some pain point I was experiencing in my life, and damn if the man didn't respond with his fist pump in the air and shout, "Woohoo!" I'm certain that this must have happened multiple times over the years, and at first, I actually hated you for that. But over time, I grew to love you for that. Because of course, you were right. From suffering does come the greatest growth. And of course, you had gold on a silver platter to help give me the suffering not feel so painful and hopeless. So annoying. He understood that to transform the world, we had to transform our hearts first. And over time, something happened. I found that I didn't need him as much. I was finding what I needed through this community by developing a trust in my inner divine and developing a new way of thinking about my faith. All of this was built over time through the practices like life story groups, Enneagram groups, meditation, teachings on Sundays, and through all the authentic relationships I forged with people here who supported me through my darkest hours. So, Doug, I'm eternally grateful to you for your guidance, support, and mentorship over the years, but even more so, I'm grateful for what you envisioned for us here and what you helped guide us to create here at Common Thread. I'm excited for you in your next chapter. Thank you.
Doug, thank you. I doubt I'd be a Christian if it weren't for you. I first came to NRCC about 25 years ago as a Jew whose daughters had become Christian and had found your church, NRCC. I want to know, what are they involved in? What is the pastor saying? So I came and listened. If you had all the right answers, I doubt I would have stayed. But you never preached as the owner of the truth. Rather, you enlightened and encouraged questions, which I took full advantage of. Often asking during the "What are you thinking" session, what about this seeming exception or that seeming exception? You made each of your lessons thought-provoking, which I particularly enjoyed. When Ann and I considered investigating the charismatic movement, your advice was, go deep, which we did before deciding that they promised more than they delivered. You had me fully hooked with your book, Rethinking Our Story, which made so much sense to me. There was nothing I could not ask. There was never offense at any of the questions. Over the years, you've been my pastor, my mentor, and a friend. It's with delight that I watch you stepping into the next phase of your life.
Hello, I'm Michelle Carter, and I did the math. I think I've been coming here about 25 years. So I'll start with that. A society grows great when its elders plant trees in whose shade they know they shall never sit. Doug and Denise, thank you for allowing me and my family to be part of your planting process. Common Thread's cultivation process. Not everything we planted will grow to fruition, but I truly believe a strong and glorious forest will rise from our efforts in the coming generations. Thank you, Doug, for building a non-judgmental space, a surprisingly gossip-free church, where you don't have to bear the burden of masking to belong. You truly can come as you are. You can bring your full self, your messy, messy self, and your dysfunctional family to church every Sunday. And when our dysfunctions made us not at our best, thank you for gently calling us in rather than calling us out. In a time streaked with alienation and othering, thank you for making room for everyone to belong. I'm getting verklempt. For casting the broadest possible net. If you are here, you belong. Thank you for making space for me and my family. Over the decades, we've had opportunities to serve, to lead, to learn, to build friendships, and more importantly, or most importantly, to locate that still small voice and anchor upon it. As an Enneagram 8 who values getting shit done and getting shit done quickly, I've watched you cool your ego jets when Robin reminded you that if you want to go fast, you go alone. If you want far, you go together. And so thank you on behalf of those who have journeyed with you for enduring our 2 steps forward, 1 step back process. Through the years, I've had many opportunities to watch you model the virtues and work the circle. I've seen you take criticism, some rightful, some unmerited, with humility, grace, and openness. I've watched you make mistakes and apologize. I've watched you selflessly forgo your salary on occasion. I've watched you consider and forgo the seduction of just choosing another career altogether. I've shared in your heartbreak of being rejected by your denomination, a denomination that simply was not equipped to walk the hero's journey that you've walked. I remember decades ago you told me that in your early years you received a word from God, and God said, "Do not contend for a church, contend for a generation." Thank you for rising to that calling and for allowing me to be a part of that journey, which I can only describe as a rich delight. Rethinking Christianity, seeding modern Christianity with quantum sensibilities is no small task, and the paradigm shift will not occur in one generation. But should we become disheartened, I repeat, a society grows great when its elders plant trees in whose shade they know they shall never sit. And if I had a glass, I would raise it. And I would say, well done, Doug. You've been a good and faithful servant.
Even further than Asheville. I was going to say, I think I win from Michigan, although Scott might have me from Florida. So in 2 minutes, it's hard. I could talk for hours about Common Thread and Doug. I think I'll start with saying when Hannah and I got married, part of our goal was to break the cycle of terrible fathers, right? So I think a lot of people share the experience of having bad dads, and we wanted to break that cycle. But as Doug would so often say, how do you do that at Thursday at 3 p.m., right? What do you do in the moment? And I think the few short years that we spent here at Common Thread with Doug gave us so many tools, right? It was a little bit of life story group, a little bit of Enneagram, a little bit of self-awareness, of conflict resolution. And I think that, so we have 2 daughters. My oldest is 6. I've got time to screw it up, right? Don't get me wrong. But I think the biggest impact that we took away, and I think the biggest impact that you had and this church had, it's changed our family tree, right? I think, and it's changed so many people's family tree. I think the power behind the investment that you've put in over a life is not linear. I think to the point that Michelle made, I think it's in the way that I deal with my daughter on a Thursday at 3 p.m. It's in the way that she looks at how Hannah and I deal with each other. It's in the way that I deal with the people that I work with. It's how Hannah leads a Girl Scout troop in Michigan. All of it is imprinted with little bits of common thread, common thread, common thread. And it's really Doug, 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 right? I know you would be the first one to say that you didn't do it all, right? But none of it happens without you. And I think that that multiplier effect, it's not linear. You look around the room, we all represent dozens, if not hundreds of interactions that go better because of the effort that you put in over the lifetime here at Common Thread. So I want to say thank you for me, thank you for my daughters, thank you for my family, and thank you for everyone that you've impacted.
I'm Teresa. So the fact that I'm standing here actually is a testimony just in and of itself, a very concrete. So I was in Texas yesterday, and I was in tune with my body enough to know that I didn't want to miss today. I wanted to be here today, and I paid money, which those of you that know me, I paid money and changed my ticket so I could be here. So that is just a concrete example. So 27 years ago when we landed here, after sitting with Doug in the coffee shop and him hearing the shit show that my life had been until we got here, he took a napkin, as he always did, and he drew a line, and he said, "This is where everybody is." And then he drew a big hole, and he said, "This is where you are, at the bottom of the hole." And that actually was so impactful for me to have somebody acknowledge what I felt. And so years, this man has dropped the rope, helped just been there to pull me out of that hole that I had been given, dealt, whatever. One of the biggest ways was through children's ministry. I did children's ministry for many, many, many years. And I didn't think I could do it. I didn't, but Doug did. And I had to get to the point where I could trust. I don't believe this, but somebody else does. And so I have to believe in his trust in me. And it was one of the most healing and freeing times for me to go back and play and heal with the kids and heal my inner children. And I'm so tremendously, like, words just can't express what the gift that was that he gave me in allowing me to do children's ministry for many, many, many years. And then there's my amazing friend, Denise, that has literally walked with me and talked and sat and listened and cried and modeled what transparency and authenticity and teachability is to be in a mother and a friend and a wife. These people have loved me in a way that I wouldn't be here today if I hadn't experienced their love.
As we celebrate our church's founder today, my brothers and I were asked to reflect on the role that this church has played in our lives. But for us, it is nearly impossible to speak to the role of the founder without speaking to the role as a father. As founder of the church, you set an example of steadfast devotion to your calling. You poured your heart and soul into a community that has inspired many. As a father, you set an example of unwavering commitment to our development, patient, steady, and willing to walk alongside us. As the founder, you have established a legacy of love, hard work, and a community over the past 30 years. And as a father, your dedication has shaped us into the people we are today. As founder, our weekends often meant working on projects at the church. And as a father, you always made sure these projects were more than just about work. We will always cherish the memory of you picking us up in the bucket of a bulldozer to give us a bird's eye view of the land and the dreams you had for this church. As a founder and a father, you laid the foundation for emotional health in our community and in our family. Now, as a parent myself, I feel prepared to help my own children navigate their interior world in a way that feels intuitive as opposed to forced. When we think of all you have done as the founder of this church, we are filled with pride, gratitude, for preserving a religion and a community that embraces everyone. But if we are being completely honest, we never viewed you as the founder of our church. We only viewed you as our father. There is no question that you were dedicated to the church, but when you were home with us, your attention was never divided. We don't share the trauma that other preachers' kids who were met with unrealistic expectations or enormous pressures to present well. We have always felt free to be ourselves. Through highs and lows, you have gently guided us when we needed it most. You and Mom have always been in our corner every step of the way. Thank you for your unwavering dedication to our church as its founder and your equally unwavering dedication to our lives as our father. We love you very much.
You can just hang on to that for a minute. Indwelling divine, we all join with all who have just spoken to give thanks for the Hammock family, for Denise and for Doug, as we look now toward the unfolding fruits of the seeds that Doug has planted. And of course, we have a tech issue because it wouldn't be a Sunday morning here without one. Thank you all. You may take a seat. Give everybody a hand for whatever, for Doug and for them. And now I would like to invite Doug and Denise and Maria and Cherie up to the stage. And as a matter of fact, if you are a member of the board or a member of the staff and would like to join us up here, please come up here and just surround us as well, wherever you can find some room here. Come up here. I know, right here. Uh-oh. I'll find it. Hold on, I know where it is. This might take a minute now to get back to where we're supposed to be. Play a little music, Joe. If you can just hit slide, well, hold on, it's coming. When I hit slideshow, go ahead. I'm gonna have to. Should probably come down here. Once we get there. Just give me a second to get to the right slide. Hold on, John. You got it.
Doug, this coiled rope represents the thread of divine life common to all of us, and the weight you have carried, and the strength with which you have led us, and the hope you have inspired in each of us. For 30 years, you have held this community close, guiding us with compassion and courage, helping to heal and repair our broken hearts so that we might ourselves become healers and repairers of our world. With gratitude and great respect, we invite you to entrust this legacy of care, trust, and hope to Sue, who will now carry it forward in her own way, building on the strong foundation you have laid.
Give that to me. It is about right. Oh, Doug, I pledge to lead this community with integrity, with humility, and with deep love. I promise to listen to the still small voice and to carry forward your vision, nurturing the spirit of inclusion, healing, and oneness you have instilled here. And while being open to the illuminations of the inner light, the promptings of divine breath, and the ever-new unfoldings and arisings of divine life. And now I'd like to ask Cherie, the members of the staff and the board, and you too, Doug, to hold this rope with me, because the beauty of this community that you created is that I do not have to hold this alone. In fact, those of us up here right now, we can just start passing this around, everybody. They don't have to hold it alone either, because everyone up here is representing this entire community, some of you who have put ribbons and cloth on this rope already. And we all offer these pledges to you, Doug, and I invite you all to respond to each pledge with the words, yes, we do. I'd like to invite Cindy and Lena and Morgan.
Founded, staying grounded in love, welcome, and shared purpose, honoring the vision you've held for us all.
Community, please say, yes, we do. Oh, that's you.
Doug, we pledge to care for each other with kindness and compassion, just as you have taught us, creating space for every journey and supporting one another through all of life's seasons.
Yes, we do.
Doug, we pledge to continue the work of inclusion, healing, and transformation, each of us sharing in the promise and purpose of this community we have built, you have built, holding together the common thread of divine life that connects us all.
Yes, we do. Would somebody be willing to just hold this microphone for a minute to save one more? All right, and now, Doug, we talked about this week. You remember when I asked if I could put my grubby hand on your head because you did that at ordination? Well, I would like to ask everybody, please, to join me in extending your hands in blessing for Doug. And if I'm going to do it, actually, I think I'm going to stand up here so I can reach your head. Doug, my brother and our dear friend, as you move into this new phase of your life, may you feel the love of this community surrounding you, just as you have surrounded us with love and care. May rest and joy find you in new ways, and may you feel a sense of deep peace, knowing the sacred work you've wrought here. We bless you with gratitude for creating a space of welcome, healing, and belonging that continues to move us towards spiritual transformation. And as you walk alongside us in this new chapter, may you know that the thread you began here will always connect us in deep, abiding, divine love. Amen. A round of applause. All right, now I don't know who's going to be in charge of the rope, but you can all go back to your seats. And now you can probably tell a lot of this ritual was a surprise for Doug, the Elements anyhow, but I asked him for a little bit of feedback. I'm like, hey man, what kind of music would you like? And he's like, I don't care. But he did tell me once that Abide With Me was a hymn that was very dear to him, and so I would like to invite you all to join us in singing this hymn that is one of Doug's beloved favorite.
Abide with me, fast falls eventide. The darkness deepens, now with me abide. When other helpers fail and comforts flee, ground of my being, oh, abide with me. Swift to its close ebbs out life's little day. Earth's joys grow dim, its glories pass away. Change and decay in all around I see. Oh, in the light I ask, abide with me. Here you are present, every passing out. You are my hope when sweet has turned to sour, and morning breaks, and earth's vain shadows flee. Through cloud and sunshine, oh, abide with me. Through cloud and sunshine, oh, abide with me.
Hello. So Scott Shackleton is going to speak to us again from Florida to let you all know about a plan that's been underway to both avoid the founder's trap and take care of Doug and Denise, after which Heather and Morgan will invite us all to participate in this effort. I think it might be in the back.
In parts.
Oh, there we go.
So Doug set a target date of July 2025 for his transition to not having a full-time
Yeah.
salary.
Yeah,
He
let's.
and Denise carefully planned a retirement strategy years ago and have been faithfully.
Yeah, there you go. You got it. Thanks.
founder's trap so tricky is that it's impossible to predict when the organization will be ready for a healthy transition. There are so many moving parts. So Doug set a target date of July 2025 for his transition to not having a full-time salary. He and Denise carefully planned a retirement strategy years ago and have been faithfully saving to make this part of avoiding the founder's trap a reality. That strategy took into account the fact that NRCC for years was not in a financial position to pay Doug a fair salary, let alone fund his retirement account. More recently, Common Thread has done some catching up contributions in Doug's retirement account. But Doug and Denise have been personally setting aside a significant portion of their income to be able to fund their retirement knowing this transition was coming. It's amazing to me that everything has converged roughly at the same time. Leadership, structure, finances, all are very close. But the operative word is roughly close. They're 6 months apart. The fact is that we're ready to have Sue lead us and Doug change his role 6 months ahead of schedule. And that's great. But it's also important that as a community, we treat Doug fairly and we treat him well with respect to his salary and his retirement. So, what's the solution to this 6-month gap? What we decided to do was raise funds outside of the church's regular budget, specifically to finish funding Doug's retirement account up front, so that he wouldn't need his full salary beginning in January of 2025. This will put the church in a much better budget position moving forward, and it means that the economic realities of this transition match up with what's actually happening in the church. So I have some exciting news today, and soon you'll also hear an ask of you for a way that you can be a part of this Founders Retirement Fund. Over the past month, I've reached out to some long-term members and some former members of Common Thread or NRCC. They may or may not even still be part of our community, but we thought they'd be likely to want to contribute and honor Doug in that way. I asked them to make a significant contribution as a challenge to newer and current Common Thread members. The response has been really good. We currently have pledges totaling near $20,000 towards our goal. The idea is that these funds are used to challenge the rest of the community to give just as much to come up with another $20,000. You'll hear more in just a bit about how to do that, but I wanted to celebrate and thank those who have sacrificed to honor Doug in a tangible way. Some of those people not even part of Common Thread anymore. That in itself is a tribute to the impact that Doug has had on so many lives. I'm excited about this opportunity, and I look forward to seeing how the rest of the community steps up. Part of what makes
I'll get it for you.
Quite possibly under the chair. I don't know, the neurodiverse moments of fidgeting. Hello. Hello. By the way, if anyone's interested in supporting our technology challenges and has that skill, you are more than welcome. Jokes aside, I'm supposed to tee up this fund in a formal way, but I want to first just acknowledge there's been a lot of the word Doug, the name Doug today, which is very true. And unfortunately, you know, kid needs and what have you, not all of the families at the table right now. But I know that
there was not pressure placed on the children to be PKs in the evangelical free style of a PK. But the reality is this family has been really central in what they have offered, what they have provided. You've heard from people that have been here well beyond me showing up. I just wanted to take a minute to acknowledge the folks here at this table, and hopefully the bros will hear this at some point later. But just as a community, we take this very seriously, the outpour of everything you've given. And Denise in specific, like, I know this was not necessarily your ball of wax. I'm sure there's so many times that there were jangly, afflicted emotions and so forth. But you're here, and we are just very grateful for the sacrifices and the choices your family has continued to make and still is today. On behalf of the board and many of the people put forth things that are in this card, we want to to give you these gifts. Morgan also has prepared some really beautiful and lovely things. I'll let her speak to that in a moment. But inside this card is a code to access a digital card where there are even more heartfelt messages than what you heard on stage today. Anyone is welcome to go click the link and review. There is a long amount of things that people have shared, memories, and it's so beautiful. We would have literally been here for days if we invited everyone that wanted to speak on stage. The other thing in here is access of information around that fund to get y'all to that retirement chapter. And my duty as chair of the board is to invite the community to gift match a pledge towards that specific fund. The code will be behind me in whatever moment it happens. But it will also be propagated in all of the ways that we always propagate information at this place. It'll be on the website. It'll be in the giving portal when you go there. There's a drop-down selector. We invite you to give specifically to that fund if there is means and a desire to do so in supporting the church as we transition. With that, Morgan, I'm happy to hold this because I see you have your hands.
Doug and Denise, we have a few gifts for you. Doug, a gift from the church to you is this crystal plaque. A truly great founding pastor is hard to find, difficult to part with, and impossible to forget. We are forever grateful. Thank you, Pastor Doug, for years of hard work, guidance, wisdom, faith, and love. With so much love and appreciation, Common Thread Church.
Now it's time for you, my friend.
All right, so put the next slide up, if you would. By the way, I should probably have clarified for Sue when she asked about music, that song that she said Doug likes, I had in my mind that would be a good song for my funeral. I did not think that's just some really great music. So, Gina, you doing the live stream? Go ahead and put that image up on the live stream for the live stream folks. So here's a question. Is this that we are looking at, is it a sunrise or it is a sunset? What do you think? How many say sunrise? All right, how many say sunset? Oh, yeah, well, I'm saying sunset, but it actually is both, and both are appropriate today because it really is the end of a day of one way of doing things at Common Thread, but it is also a new day, a new way of beginning, a new beginning for a way of doing things at Common Thread. Now, I'm going to go with this is a sunset. And the reason I'm doing that is primarily because it's going to be a different role for me in my life. And the community is going to run so much more effectively without me doing the day-to-day operations of the community. I am going to actually be a much better contributor to the well-being of our community than I have been doing the actual operations. So, next slide. Well, you know what? Go ahead to the next slide. I'll come to that one in a moment. In 1995, Denise and Haven and Daniel, who's on an airplane right now, you're watching it later, and Michael, who's on the live stream. Hello, Michael and Caitlin. 9 months inside of Denise, we got in the car and we drove from Los Angeles to Raleigh. We stopped at the Grand Canyon. We've got pictures. I was going to show you one. I couldn't find it this morning. We stopped off in Tennessee to buy fireworks that were fully illegal in California, and you could do that here. We didn't want to wait till dark, so we lit them off in the parking lot while we were driving across the country. And I started Common Thread 1 week ago, the last week of October in 1995. We had no people. We had an abandoned building up on Ray Road that looked like a tool shed. And I had been 15 years at a good church in LA, in seminary, and then as an intern, and then as a college minister. It was a really good church. But after 15 years in this good church, I was troubled because people, actively engaged people in that community, were not changing. Their lives were not getting better. Now that's a gross overstatement. That wasn't true for everyone, but it was true for a lot of people. People that I knew who had been very active in the community for 1 year, 3 years, 5 years, 7 years, were still circling the same psychological and emotional and relational troubles that they had been 1 and 3 and 5 and 7 years before. Now, it was 1995. People were already waking up to the problem in churches, and a lot of people were having conversations about that. We're often thinking about, what about this church and the problems there, and that church and that church? Or what about this thing that we're doing at church and that thing that we're doing at church? But I remember, because I had been at a good church and I had observed this non-transformation happening, maybe the problem is church. Now, next slide. So when I showed up with this workbook. It's a, nope, the book. And there you go. I cannot believe I found the image of this on the internet. It is still out there. I carried this thing around for years. It basically says, do these 9 things and you will have a church. And I was leaving Los Angeles with no shortage of great encouragers coming to me and lining up to say, Doug, starting a church without a team. Doug, starting a church without adequate funding. Doug, starting a church in a city where you don't know anybody. Doug, the statistics are not in your favor. Doug, 90% failure rate. Good luck. But I had this book. And this book said, if you do these 9 things, you will have a church. And I figured smart people had already done these 9 things, and they had a church. And I was sure I was as smart as them, so I could just show up and build a church with these 9 things and be able to buy groceries for my kids. So in the back of my mind, this book was a secret weapon. It was a blueprint. All I had to do was follow the blueprint, and everything was going to be okay. The problem was a good church and not changing people. So I showed up a little bit suspicious of everything I knew about everything. If I build a church with the blueprint, it's not going to be better than the good church that I came from. So I would go to the book and I would say, no, I can't do that. No, I can't do that. No, I can't do that. And I carried that book around for a decade. And I remember the day that I threw it in the trash. It was like giving up a security blanket. I don't have a blueprint. So, next slide. I got here and I started asking hard questions. I started reading a lot of books, attending seminars, talking to other ministers, and I realized nobody has a blueprint. There isn't a blueprint out there. We are launching into territory that we haven't launched into for 500 years. We're actually in the middle of a reformation, and there's a lot of great authors talking about the ideas, but it's actually going to be worked out in a community. And so I had no blueprint, but I eventually had to organize my days, so I came up with a plan, and here was my plan. In an inner quiet moment, I eventually came to this. Next slide. Here's what I'm going to do. No, that was the slide. Back a slide. Yeah, I'm going to build a church that I would like to go to. And that's really all I had. And so I started stumbling around trying to figure out what kind of church I'd like to go to. What do I want? Why haven't I bailed out on church like so many of my peers had bailed out on church? And then I would try this thing, and then I would say, no, I do not want to go to that church. And then I would try that thing, and I would say, no, I don't want to go to that church either. And then I'd try this thing, and I'd think, that's a church I'd like to go to. Yeah, that feels right. That feels good. And I ransacked books, mostly history books. I looked for what spiritual people have done in the times when we were not spiritually unhealthy, when we were transforming and changing. And then some folks came and joined, and we would try this thing together, and we would say, yes, there is life there. And then we would try that thing, and we would say, no, there is no life there. And we did that for a long time, stumbling and searching, and it was fun, really fun. And it was fulfilling. It was really fulfilling. And the people who were doing it together became very dear to one another, became very dear to me. And after a while, we had to explain what we had done and what we had learned to other people. And here we ran into a problem. We could call it rethinking our story. We could call it reworking the circle. But the snag that we hit, next slide, was my personality. Next slide. That's the one. ENFJ. If you're familiar with Myers-Briggs, I'm a little bit E, extroverted. I'm a little bit F, feeling. I am pretty strong J, judging. I love closure. And I am off the charts, I, intuitive. And as happens, it is our unbalanced parts, like being off the charts intuitive, that cause us our troubles. So we were doing all of this thing. I was really good at intuiting. Ooh, yeah, that's life-giving. Ooh, yeah, that's not. I was really good at that part. But then when it came to explaining it to someone else, I couldn't define it. I couldn't lay out the data very well. I couldn't explain it in detail. All I could do was, ooh, I used to call myself an amoeba. Ooh, light, no. I did that for a long, long time. It's a great strength when you're trying to discern a new way. It's a real weakness when you're trying to explain it to other people. So it has been a lot of years working hard to unearth the driving core principles behind why this is life-giving and why this is not. Working hard to explain the reasons behind why this is a church that I would want to go to. And praise be to God, you also want to go to. Next slide. And now we're here. And Common Thread is a church I want to go to. And I am so gratified that you want to go here too. Now I can explain. We can explain the what and the why and the underlying principles in the build out of the practices. And Common Thread is strong. And Common Thread is resilient. And Common Thread has a tremendous reservoir of shared experience and has a tremendous reservoir of cultural norming. Common Thread is strong. We have Sue. I am so grateful we found her or she found us. I am grateful for her spirituality. I am grateful for her organizational ability. I am grateful for her kindness. I am grateful for her life experience. We found Heather and we found Shelby and we found Joe around the pandemic time. We found Morgan just before that. We found Jen and Julie and Kate and Carol years before that. And we just found our newly emerging board. And so many on our teams, like Haven and Jack, who've been down with our teenagers. We are strong and we are resilient and we have built-in redundancy. So good, good, good for us. The future is strong for us. But let me just stand back from that a moment and speak in historical terms. Because in historical terms, we are an ephemeral, delicate gossamer, which means we're like a spider web that can be wiped out in one generation. Because we are one generation away from being not who we are. We are one generation away from devolving into already existing patterns of religion that we know from experience don't work. They've already proven themselves to be unhelpful. Next slide. So, it is apt that in this image that is both a sunrise and a sunset, but I am thinking of as a sunset, it is apt that the sun is not yet down. I'm not dead yet. I'm not even retiring. I'm going to be at this thing as many hours each week as I am now, and I'm going to do that until my body gives out. But what I'm going to be doing, praise be to Jesus, is not what I have been doing. I'm going to be working to articulate and to document and to train people in, hopefully many of you, the things that we have discovered these 29 years and the principles that support them, and the historical precedent that informs them, and the practical application of them. And I hope to establish in our heads and in our hearts and in our guts the principles and the guiding norms that have defined who we have become. What does it take to be healthy spiritual community in the quantum era? What are the core principles? What are the norms and the practices? And my hope in these next years is that we collectively know and that we communally internalize. And then we can also give away a way of being healthy spiritual community. We can give away the underlying truths on which we've built Common Thread, how to be a healthy spiritual community, a spiritual community in which human beings do change and do heal and do become better people and do build healthier relationships and healthier neighborhoods and better political parties and a better world. I don't know what's going to happen on Tuesday, but I can promise you on Wednesday, we will be right back here building the foundation of a transformed society. Because it happens like a yeast, and it happens where we begin to build a way of being that is transformative in human beings. And the work now that I want to be part of, and I hope many of you do too, is to encode it and to normalize it and to make it a cultural norm that survives not just me, but survives every one of us. Because thank God the sun's not down yet. And next slide. Thank you. Thank you for it's not as easy as it looks, is it, daughter? Thank you for coming along on this journey. And thank you, many of you, putting your fingerprints all over it for a long, long period of time. And thank you for giving your time and giving your love and building friendships here, because friendships really are the bedrock of a healthy spiritual community. And thank you for being transparent with one another and authentic with one another, and for building a strong reservoir of trust together. Thank you for doing the practices together, working together to dismantle our ego selves. Thank you for coming alongside and helping me build a church that I want to go to. And thank you in advance for helping me build it over the next part of my life so that it outlives us. This has been the most fun life I could have imagined. And you, through the years, are why. So again, thank you. And I think we're going to dismiss the live stream folks now. Come on up. Oh, look at you, standing up even. All right, but don't stand too long because we got to dismiss the live stream people. All right, those of you on the live stream, we are going to dismiss you now, and I don't even know what we're going to do next. But those of us in the room, if you would, please put your hand on your heart. The reason we repeat this thing every week is because it is one of the core principles on which we can build healthy spiritual community, that we are, every one of us, carriers of the indwelling divine. The Spirit of the divine is within us, so that means that we are carriers of love and joy and peace and kindness. We are carriers of courage and bravery and capacity. We are carriers of wisdom because we carry the divine light. We have more inside of us than we are even aware that we have. So let us remember as we go that we are, every one of us, carriers of the indwelling divine. And if you would, extend your other hand to our city and Sue.
And remembering all that is within us that we take out into the world with us this week and share what is in our hearts with everyone we encounter, with those with whom we live, with whom we work, with whom we go to school, with whom anybody we run into on the street, taking seriously our commitment to be healers and repairers of our world. Amen.
Amen. Those of you on the live stream, you're dismissed. See you, Michael and Caitlin. All right, you're on,
All right,
sister.
and I don't have much more to say other than let's give Doug and the whole family another hand.